Hello and welcome to a series of WAIPA short interviews with representatives of investment promotion agencies. My name is Bostjan Skalar and I'm the Executive Director of World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, WAIPA. The purpose of these interviews is to get an overview how IPAs all around the world are responding to COVID-19 crisis, what measures they are taking and what actions they are planning for post-COVID-19 era. And it's my sincere pleasure to have with me today Mr. Sergio Ricardo Segovia Barbosa, the president of Apex-Brasil, so the investment and trade promotion agency from Brazil. Hello, Mr. Ricardo Segovia Barbosa. My first question would be, what's the current situation in Brazil and what measures are being taken to alleviate the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, both from governmental perspective and of course, especially from the IPA perspective?
Okay, thank you very much to invite me to be here. The Brazilian government declared a state of emergency to release the public budget to fight the virus. This was in mid-March when we had only 621 infected and 6 deaths. As of today, we have around 692,000 infected, 36,000 deaths, but around 302 recovered. So we have a quite different situation. The passed law made it possible to spend about $62 billion US. At that time, the International Monetary Fund stated that the Brazilian government had taken the correct decision when declaring a state of public calamity. And the IMF added that the Brazilian government created a space that allowed it to support the health system and support families and companies. A comprehensive website has been created with lots of information about COVID-19 for citizens and businesses. Some of the other measures are health, R&D financing, $10 million US to finance lines of research related to prevention, control, diagnosis, and treatment against coronavirus. More than 5,800 professionals were invited to Mais Médicos program. Mais Médicos means more doctors. Most of them will be sent to areas with high population concentration. Telemedicine services have been allowed. 10 million rapid test kits are being distributed by the federal government and states. Regarding support for families and employment, the government is transferring financial aids to workers in the informal sector or unemployed, which is expected to reach 54 million people. Formal employment protection measures have been announced, including home from work, teleworking, anticipation of vaccinations, and anticipation of vacations and mandatory vacations. The government authorized the reduction of working hours with proportional reduction of wages in exchange for the maintenance of the jobs. The government will pay part of the salary to workers to compensate the cut. The impact of this will be around $10.3 billion US. Support for companies and credit. Credit for micro and small firms, about $1 billion US. To provide liquidity to companies, the government postponed the payment of debts and contributions by companies to the federal government for 3 months. The impact of this is up to $40 billion. The state-owned Federal Saving Bank will offer $29.8 billion in credit lines to small and medium-sized companies aimed at the working capital purchase of payroll loan portfolios from medium-sized banks and agribusiness. The Banco do Brasil announced an increase of $20 billion in its credit lines aimed at working capital, investments, prepayment of receivables, agribusiness, and credit to individuals. Special credit lines with funds from the constitutional finance funds for working capital investments impact of 1.2 billion US dollars. And regarding monetary policies, the Selic interest rate, Selic is an interest rate for the Brazilian government, was reduced to 3%, its lowest record. Flexibility of the agribusiness letter of credit rules, increasing agribusiness credit potential by 1.3 billion US dollars and additional liquidity to banks by 440 million US dollars. I must emphasize that according to the table shown in the report of the Inter-American Development Bank, this report name is Policies to Fight Pandemic, released this year, the Central Bank of Brazil was the one that adopted most of the monetary policies among central banks in Latin America and the Caribbean. Aid to states and municipalities, financial support of 3.2 billion US dollars for 4 months to guarantee regular services and social assistance programs for the most vulnerable population. 1.8 billion US dollars transfer to the National Health Fund, suspension of the payment of the debt of states and municipalities to the federal government. The impact is 4.5 billion US dollars. Regarding containment and social distancing, private company employees and government officials started teleworking whenever possible. Measures to restrict the traffic of people and commercial operations are enforced in large cities, while some states consider restricting the access of nationals from other federal units. Restriction on the entry of foreigners by air from countries affected by COVID-19. Brazil closed its land borders. The measure does not affect road freight transport, Brazilians, immigrants from permanent residence with permanent residence in Brazil, and professionals working in international organizations. Regarding trade and investment facilitation, exemption from customs duties on products such as ventilators, sanitizers, masks, gloves, protective glasses, among others. Trade facilitation, elimination or simplification of procedures to facilitate the flow of imported goods such as personal protective equipment, among other products.
Okay. Can I ask you a sub-question? How did,
yes.
For example, the existing investors react? Since you've been very, obviously the government and also an IPA, you've been very proactive. Do you see some withdrawals from, let's say, their plans, or at least slow down the processes, or how do they react? For example, they exist, because I'm sure as an IPA, you are putting a special attention to the ones that are there and putting it the aftercare and all these services. Beside this, as you as a leader, for example, of an IPA, how do you see then the role of IPAs in the future? Will the IPAs need to adjust the strategies, or I don't know, long-term plans, or maybe restructuring even the structures of their agencies? And of course, use this COVID crisis more as a chance to be a bit different rather than seeing it as a problem.
Very good question. According to UNCTAD, the flow of FDI is expected to decrease from -30 to -40% into 2020 and the next year. Even if we have a slightly smaller decline in the Latin American and Caribbean region, it will be a very challenging scenario. In addition, some companies may relocate, and we hear about American and Japanese companies that are considering leaving China and going elsewhere. This migratory movement raises concern on the one hand, but on the other, it opens opportunities for other countries. Therefore, IPAs must adapt their strategies to retain their current customers. This will be achieved by IPAs strengthening their aftercare and policy advocacy roles. At the same time, they must be ready to attract new investors, especially in areas crucial for the development of their home country. This pandemic context demanded the intensive use of ICT tools for video conference, webinars, virtual exhibitions, and virtual visits. Working from home has proven to be worthwhile, and most of the ICT resources we need are still available. So I believe that the biggest challenge is to use creativity and innovation to find new ways to take advantage of the chance that may arise. We should also not be afraid to be open to new ideas and approaches. It is an extraordinary time, and old ideas may not now be successful. In short, we must be bold and open-minded.
I fully agree. Would you say that you have it in Brazil, all the laws and bylaws ready, let's say, to go more into digitalized world? And I mean, the people, are they literate enough in the using digital tools to overcome, let's say, these hard times and these challenges, and then maybe work in a new normal, which will be more digitalized?
Yes, unfortunately, not everyone is able to use these tools. We can say that people that works in great companies and most of government officials are able to use these new technologies. Here in my agency, for example, we were closed for 2 months, and the day I decided to close was on March 20th. We started the same day to work with ICT tools, and we worked very well. Now we came back, but we have only 30% of the people on the workforce on board.
So it means that you as a governmental agency, you are pretty, I would say, proactive. So and able to use these tools, and I'm sure you can assist as well to others to be prepared for the, let's say, new future. My last question would be, how do you see the role of IPAs in the future? We know, and we also conducted, I would say, as WAIPA, some, let's say, short survey. Are the IPAs feel under some administrative threats, like cutting the budgets, any kind of issues? I don't know, even some of them like dissolving the agencies. And I'm sure you would agree with me, and please elaborate a bit on like a cooperation or collaboration with other institutions, not only internationally, like, for example, being part of WAIPA or being part of some other, let's say, associations, but as well internally, being in touch with other ministries, with our governmental agencies, to be able to work hand in hand to support your country, and of course, especially investors on the other hand, to feel secure, to feel really at home, and to feel that they can, if not, for example, make new investment, but at least to expand or reinvest in Brazil.
Okay, I can say to you, and I think you fully agree with me, that collaboration is the word of the moment. So everyone needs to collaborate with each other to keep your business working. Here, Apex-Brasil is a public-private agency. We are not connected to the government, but we are linked to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but we are not subordinated to them. But our main resources come our income come from the payroll of the companies. So most of our income come from this area. And of course, we are collaborating with everyone. I've been participating in many webinars, and I offer our expertise for changing ideas and how we can collaborate with these companies. Now, we are not only an IPA, but we are a TPO also. And I can tell you, a survey by the University of Oxford showed that 83% of CEOs charged with selecting a place to invest tend to refer to the country's IPA as their first local focal point. According to a study by Wells and Wint, 10% increase in expanding on promoting investments for an IPA leads to a 2.5% increase in FDI. Harding and Yavorchik show that each $1 spent on investment promotion leads to an increase of about 189 in FDI inflows. So this is strong evidence that IPAs are important and will be even more so in the coming years. The economic recovery will depend a lot on trade and investment. And in the case of Apex-Brasil, as we are a TPO and an IPA, we must work hard to help Brazil overcome the odds. And we intend to continue working in collaboration with the government, trade associations, suppliers, and partners. The World Trade Organization is conducting an investment facilitation initiative to develop a policy framework to attract FDI in order to assist governments in all member countries. The Brazilian mission at the WTO has been very active in this multilateral group, and since last January, Apex-Brasil has been contributing strongly to this initiative through our ambassadors in Geneva. And in relation to the government, a regulatory agenda has recently launched by the Foreign Trade Committee of the Ministry of Economy. The objective of this work is to create a more friendly and easily understandable framework to attract foreign direct investments. Civil society and investors are being invited to work with the government on this agenda together with collaboration. The word I said, they will create, review, and even extinguish regulations according to the needs of the investor, improving the business environment so that Brazil can attract and retain more investors. I am sure that this agenda will be valuable for Apex-Brasil and will certainly contribute to this task in addition to benefiting from it as a trade and investment promotion agency.
Actually, I'm glad that you mentioned this initiative of investment facilitation. We as WAIPAs are aware of your, Brazilian, very much, I would say, leading role in this initiative, also with Friends of Investment Facilitation. And we are also putting all the efforts trying to connect other IPAs within this initiative. And we have a strong relations with WTO. And I believe definitely this collaboration will bring positive effects, whatever the image is now, in public. So I would really, thank you, especially for sharing with us really good insights of what your government and your agency is doing, was doing, or will be, especially will be doing in the future. It's good for other, let's say, listeners to understand the different approaches from the different parts of the world with the same threat that we are under now with the COVID, of course. So, Mr. Sergio Segovia, really thank you so much for taking your precious time to share your insights. We wish all the best, and we are here for you to assist in any kind of need you might have it. Please feel free. And to the audience and to listeners and the one who will watch this video, I would also like to thank you in advance. And please do follow us on our social media. Visit our webpage, waipa.org, where you can find all this information relevant for the COVID crisis, and wider, of course, how the IPAs are responding to these challenges, how they are coping with the problems, and what they are planning in the future. So please stay tuned and follow us from different channels, and feel free to reach us out for any kind of assistance. So thank you again for being with us, and I wish you all the best in Brazil with all your fights that you are doing actually to assist your government and to assist especially investors on the other side, that they feel secure, they feel good in your country, and they will, let's say, hopefully make new investments or reinvestments. So this will be my, and of course, stay safe and healthy at the end. This is my final message.
Thank you very much again for inviting me to be here. And I have been following you. I could hear 3 of your conversations with Deepak Bagla, the Ghana one, and the South Korea one, the ones I could see, and it is my pleasure to be here. And please count on me anytime you need, anytime you want, and be safe and take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.